Hello, welcome to Caseware IDEA Data Analytics Software and Introduction. In this video, we're going to learn how to create an external project. It's important that we create an external project if you're working in a place like a computer lab, where at the end of the day, all your work is going to be erased from the computer that you are working at. You need to save it in a different location. We'll also see how to import and export Microsoft Excel files in this video. So to start with, I want to work on creating an external project. In order to do this, I will start out by first showing you my desktop, where I have two folders. One is called IDEA, the other is called IDEA Original Files. What I have is IDEA is what I'm concerned with right now, and this is an empty folder. This is going to be my destination folder. Obviously, when you're working in the computer lab, you do not want to create a folder on the desktop because it's going to get wiped out. So you would put this on a student drive or some place like OneDrive. Now that I have that, let me go into my software, which is IDEA. The first thing I would do is I would select File, and File, I'd select Options. And under Options, I select Folders. And over here, by default, it's going to choose place where it's going to do this. So we're going to change the location, all of this, to where we want to have the file stored. So in my case, I'm going to look at the desktop. Within the desktop, I'm looking for the IDEA folder. And I'm going to select that same folder for everything. So I shall go to my desktop, IDEA. Okay. Again, desktop, IDEA, and the IDEA folder. Now that I've selected the location, as you would see in this case, I'm using OneDrive. This is my personal OneDrive that I have. Within OneDrive, it's a desktop. Within that desktop, it's the IDEA folder. This is where I'm telling IDEA that I would like everything, all my work to go in. So now I select OK. It's going to ask me, existing managed projects will not be moved. Continue, and we are going to say yes. Okay. Now that I've done that, I will create a new project. And here I'm going to choose external. I choose the folder. And the folder, once again, I use is OneDrive, Desktop, IDEA, the exact same one I've chosen earlier. And I select OK. It's going to give me these options of shared usage or individual usage. Select individual usage. If you select shared usage, you will not be able to use the project overview function, and the library features will not be available for you. So we do want those features, so make sure you select individual usage and then click on OK. Now that we have that done, we are going to create a project, and we will start with, we've created the project, we're going to select desktop. I'm going to import Excel files, so I select Excel. Now it's asking me, where is your Excel file? And my Excel file is, I need to select OneDrive. In OneDrive, my IDEA original files, okay? And these are the original files for project company. I'm going to pick one of these, accounts receivable, and select OK. And I select next. And it's going to ask me, do you want to select it as a database? Bring it in as a database, and the answer is yes. And then the first row has field names, so yes, the answer is yes. See what happens if you deselect that. It pushes that down to the first row. We don't want that. So I say yes, first row has field names. And then it says import empty numeric cells as 0. So if there's a column such as amount that has numbers, if it's blank, it'll bring it in as 0, and I say yes. So I have these by default. I go ahead and say yes. And it's telling me the output file That is, once it brings it into IDEA, what do I want to call it? Well, it was accounts receivable when I brought it in, and I want to keep the same name. So you do have a choice. You can change the name over here. So I select OK. Now I have brought the Microsoft Excel file in over here. This process that we went through is called importing a Microsoft Excel file. Now I'm going to do a quick analysis over here. I'll create another Excel file and I'll show you how to export the file. So I'm going to move over from the Home tab to Analysis. Within Analysis, under Categorize, I'm going to select Summarization. And here I'm going to look for customer numbers. I want it summarized based on customer numbers. I want the amount, and I want the credit limit for each customer. And the amount I want is sum. Okay, so definitely I want to know how much they have. I don't want to select credit limit. Let's take it. Okay, by default, the file name is going to be called summarization. If you think that during the process of doing this work, you're going to have many such files or many such analysis you're going to be doing, you can name the file. So in this case, I'm just going to say summarization, and I'm summarizing by customer. So I'm going to write summarization customer and select OK. Now what you see is it's giving me a summary of all my customers by customer number. So this is again a new Excel file. If I click over here, I go back to the original file. This is the summary file. Now each of these numbers that you see in blue, which has been underlined, is called a hyperlink. So if I click on that hyperlink, it'll give me more information. So let's quickly first look at this. Let me go back to the accounts receivable database. In the accounts receivable database, there were a total of 402 records. A record is a line in IDEA. In Excel, we would call it a row. IDEA calls it a record. So the total of 402 records we have, which means accounts receivables. Summarization was by customer number. It's telling me I have 53 customers. Now, obviously, I will have multiple transactions, hopefully, with every individual customer. So now if you look at customer number 1, there's only one record. So let me select that. And it tells me this one record, what the dollar amount is, who the accounts receivable clerk was this transaction authorized, who's the cash receipts clerk, the credit limit. So here's a good thing to check. The credit limit for this customer is $1,000. The amount they owe me is under $1,000, so we are good with this. The due date is January 21st, 2015. It's giving me all this information over here. So there's all the information from the primary file, which is the accounts receivable file, that I have seen all of this information. I can choose to print it, save it. I'm just going to click done over here because I want to close that. So 1 is fine. Let's take a look at 3. 3 tells me who these people are, what the amounts are, and what the credit limit is. Okay, so the credit limit is $5,000. Is it $5,000 for the customer or for each individual transaction? If you look at this, there are 3 open invoices which add up to more than $5,000, but each individual amount is under $5,000. So it appears that the credit limit for each individual transaction is $5,000. Obviously, here is where the fraud examination comes in. You want to go in and check what it is. Is it the individual invoice, or is it for the customer, the 5,000? If it's for the customer, 5,000, clearly we have a problem over here. Again, I'm going to close this. Where this becomes useful is if you have a customer, we have 56 transactions for this individual customer. Again, if you go through this, you're going to see lots of information over here. I'll show you a couple quick things over here that are very similar to Excel. This amount column, when I bring the cursor over the word amount, you see the arrow that comes there? If you double click on it, Now all the amounts have been sorted in the ascending order. Ascending order is typically not a problem because of this credit limit. That's what I want to check. So I'm going to click on it again, and now it's in the descending order. Okay, the largest invoice is under the $5,000 limit, so we are fine. Okay, we are fine with this particular transaction. So there's a wealth of information over here, and as you can see, this is called the extraction preview. So I'm going to close this down. Okay, now a couple of things before I finish the video over here. I've done the summarization. If for an assignment you've been asked to provide this information, that is, you've summarized the accounts receivable by customer number, this is what we have over here. We can export the file. But what if for yourself you need to remember how you ran this program? What did you do? The easiest thing to do is click on this icon over here, which says rerun. When you click on it, what happens is we have this window that comes up that tells you exactly what you did. By customer number, you did a summarization of amount and credit limit. You took the sum, and it gives me all the information. It says the file was summarization-customer1, and this is asking me whether I want to run it again, rerun it. I don't want to rerun it, okay? So what I would do over here is I would open a Word file, and I shall go over here. I shall open a new file, and this new file I'm going to write accounts receivable summarization, and I shall take a screenshot, a screen clipping, and I want a screen clipping. Oh dear, I didn't want of this. What I want a screen clipping of is, I'll have to undo this, screenshot, and I want the screenshot over here, and the screenshot gives me this information. So I would do this to keep a tab of what I had done. Now, not necessary, but you can always come back and click on the rerun button while you have that database open. So at this point, I'm going to close the summarization, and let me show you how we are going to export this information. We're in over here, and we're going to click on File, Export, Export as an Excel file, and I'm going to export. Again, I need to have a location where I'm going to export. Okay, so the location is going to again be, I don't want to put it in OneDrive, desktop, idea, and I'm going to say save over here. And now, just to make sure that this has worked, I will go in over here and see. So a couple of things to note. I'm going to expand this. This was the idea folder, which was an empty folder that I'd created. Let me first go to the summarization customer. If I double click on this, that data that I had created by way of extracting information from the accounts receivable file, I now brought it out as a separate Excel file. So I imported the accounts receivable file, and I have exported the summarization of that file by customer number. So if I want to share some information but don't want to give all the information, I would do this. Now what you would see over here is this file doesn't have those hyperlinks. So it has lost all that information. But that's okay. I just wanted to show you how to export a file. Okay, now that we're done with exporting the file, I'd like you to also look at all of this that's been created. I'm going to sort by type over here so that we can see this. So this icon over here is the idea icon. It's saying that we imported a file called accounts receivable, and IDEA created a database. I'll show you an idea what it looks like. We then have a summarization database that was also created. And these are all folders that IDEA creates automatically. So let's take a look at the source files. When I double click on source files, I won't see anything over here because I did not start out with a database. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. So let me go back to IDEA and show you a couple other things over here before I close out over here. I have this tab on the side called Properties. We'll come back to that. And on this side, we have File Explorer. So File Explorer is showing me what files are there in this particular project that I'm working on. So the file I brought in, imported, is called Accounts Receivable. Once IDEA brings it in, it creates a database like an Access, and you have this cube over here. That's a database. Now, under that, you have a sub-database, and that was a summarization analysis that we ran. So accounts receivable is called the parent database, and summarization is called the child database. Now, we see this delete button over here. Let's see what happens if I try to delete this. Let me go here, and I say delete. It's not going to let me delete. The reason it's not letting me delete is because that it's currently open. So for you to delete something, you have to first close it. So I'll say okay over here. This push pin, when you click on it, a couple times it disappears. It doesn't disappear, it just pushes off to the side. Okay. So summarization, I'll close this. Now let me go back over here. Let me go to summarization. And now I'm going to select delete. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to delete? It's a good feature over here. I say yes, and it takes off. Now when you see, all that I'm left with is the accounts receivable file. So yeah, it is possible to delete it. So we saw how to import an Excel file. We saw how to export an Excel file. Now let me show you one more feature over here, and that would be in the Home tab. We have Project Overview. Click on Project Overview, and it tells you that you imported a file from Excel. The file was then converted into an IDEA file, which is IMD, and it's called Accounts Receivable Database. Then we ran an analysis summarization, but it has this red X and this whole thing in red. That means it was deleted. Now, another way to look at this is the table view. In the table view, I'm going to click on Expand All. It gives me the entire log. And this is one of the outstanding features of IDEA. Obviously, for internal control purposes, they don't want someone to come in and delete a file and not know what happened to it. So this has a history of everything that has been done. So it tells me that there are 4 items over here. I imported from Excel. It tells me what the database name is, who the user is. This is my ID. The output was a database. I wasn't using the IDEA server. I don't have the server version over here. And this is probably one of the best internal control features. It is going to have a timestamp over here, exactly what time I did this job. It gives me all the information over here. Then it says I did summarization. It tells me what summarization I did, what fields were used, all those details are over here. Then it tells me I exported it. So if someone tries to copy my file, I have a record of that. And then finally, it says that I deleted the file, the database. So Project Overview is a really good feature to have, which is why when we had started out with creating external projects and I walked you through the process, I had said one of the selections you need to make towards the end is you want for internal usage, not shared usage. If it's shared usage, then this feature is disabled. You will not be able to see this. Again, why would I not want anyone to see this if it's shared usage? Because I don't want anyone else to know what I'm doing. So I don't want that feature, this information to be shared with everyone else. So if there are multiple people who have access to these databases, there's one key person who will have access to project overview. Other people are not going to have access to project overview. So once again, I hope this has been helpful in terms of creating an external project, importing and exporting Excel files.